Good afternoon. I wanted to speak about the role that I've been in for 12 months now, which is a benefit and housing advice worker based in the Sex Work Project. I wanted to just give you a little tiny view of who I am. I've done 20 odd years in support work, working with sex workers, care leavers, drug users, all kinds of vulnerable groups and asylum seekers. I have worked as a sex worker myself at various points. And my first point about the effects of austerity measures is that my salary is no better than I was on in 1994. And workers in sex work projects are under a great deal of stress. The commissioning of services has meant that we are often on very short contracts, very high stress levels at work, high turnover of staff. So that's your first impact of austerity measures, is staff shortages and skills running away from the sector. The sex work projects themselves are under a great deal of stress to finance themselves. Not my job, I'm just on the sharp end of it, funding. However, what I'm going to say to you now is I'm going to bring up two case studies that I think will perfectly illustrate some of the issues that have been coming up today. The first is I take a lead on Friday night outreach. I met a woman who was 48 years old and she had not been out to work for 13 years. So she'd not worked since her mid-30s. When I asked her what had brought her back out to work, her DLA had been cut. This woman has a mental health diagnosis of paranoid schizophrenia, which is lifelong. She was on DLA for 18 years without interruption based on her mental health issues. She was re-evaluated and lost her DLA. The quick tipple effect of that upon her life was very rapid. Within 6 weeks, she'd fallen out with her landlord, who we suspect may have been exploiting her anyway. She'd gone off her methadone script, which she'd been on a maintenance script for many years. She'd fallen off that because she started using again due to the stress of losing her DLA. So she'd lost £500 a month. She's lost her maintenance prescription. The conditionality of drug recovery programs at the moment means that it's very hard for her to get back onto that with a minimum of 4 to 6 weeks and having to justify that she is willing to go into recovery, whereas actually at that point she didn't want to be in recovery, she was under enormous stress. So she'd gone back out to work, she'd lost her house, she'd lost her script. She was then sofa surfing. She actually has an address, but boy, she's never there. So she has become completely chaotic. Her mental health is deteriorating. She has had to change GP, which has meant changing CPN. The stresses upon the mental health services mean that the CPN turns up to give her medication and that is it. How come nobody knew she'd lost her benefits? How come the GP didn't ask? How come the CPN didn't ask? These are statutory agencies. I, as a voluntary worker on low pay, part-time hours, work with this woman who sometimes is exceedingly dangerous and very unpredictable. I'm prepared to meet her. I have reapplied for PIPs. She has no physical health conditions and she has been refused PIPs with 0 points. So this is somebody who had DLA for 18 years consistently and has lost that. Right? This has tippled her into chaotic mental health, drug use and unsafe sex work. I met her on the street one night carrying a knife because she felt so paranoid. We are looking to be the only agency, apart from another charity, who are working directly with her. I want to give you another case. This case study is a 34-year-old woman who I met on street outreach. She disclosed that she was suffering domestic violence by her boyfriend, who was a drug dealer. She had a child under 1. She was very paranoid about other women knowing that she was reporting domestic violence because the other women may exchange information with her boyfriend for drugs. So that's a kind of complicated setup. I've worked with this woman now for 12 months. We've put her through the hospital system approximately 4 times, in which she, as we know, in domestic violence cases, it takes many, many attempts to leave. So at the moment, when I met her, she had no benefits. She had a child under 1. This was reported to Children's Safeguarding. That child is now up for adoption. This is the cost of reporting her domestic violence. She was chaotic, and she will accept that she wasn't capable of looking after that child at that time. But that child is now up for adoption. 12 months later, the child's gone. She is still in the same situation. Okay, same situation. We've had MARAC. We've had safeguarding DV hub meetings. Everybody's incredibly concerned about this woman. Who's working with her? The charity worker on part-time work and low pay. Right? We have been pushing very much for statutory bodies to take responsibility for this case, but there are no hostel places. DV places, refuges have been cut to smithereens, and they will not accommodate the current drug-using, sex-working woman. The same problem is happening with local housing hostels, because they're seen as problematic and non-stayers. So therefore, this woman has bounced in and out of hostels. I would like to, as a final point, just make a comparison with a migrant woman who I went to meet through street outreach. They'd been raided by the police under the guise of they thought they were being trafficked. They'd had their car, £5,000 removed and confiscated. We got all this back. But the woman I was previously talking about, from Leeds at age 34, is being controlled, exploited, physically examined by the boyfriend, humiliated, violently beaten, held in houses and kidnapped. No response. And yet the police can raid a migrant worker's house under the suspicion of trafficking and assuming they're a victim. We have real victims walking around here who cannot get services, and that is due to the cuts in local services. Thank you.